Make sure we're live here. Got it. Everything's good. And we are live. What's happening, everybody? Carmen Denisco here, UIA TV. We are on episode number 2 for the Youth Innovation Series. Got some great stuff happening here. We got a great guest on today. We have Julie Shively and Jake Wilson on with us. And we will bring Julie on. Let us know what's happening out there. Julie, take the mic. What's up?
Hey, Carmine. Always lots of things going on. We just finished wrapping up the Global Innovation Field Trip last weekend, which is our 24-hour online multi-country celebration of youth innovators around the world. And it was a fantastic program as usual. And we're really excited to start preparing now for October. And for anybody who was out watching the gift last weekend and is looking for those videos, they should be up in the next 24 hours or so. So check out the Innovation World site or the Global Innovation Field Trip.org site and look at watch videos, and you'll find all of the videos from the July event there. And one of our fabulous student co-hosts is also a guest today of our program. His name is Siddharth, but we get to call him Sid because he likes us. And he was also a top innovator in the U.S. National Innovator Challenge, which is why he's on the program today, to learn from Amy Jo and ask tough questions, things like that. Thanks for inviting us. We're happy to be here. And then there's this guy over here, at least on my screen, Jake. He's complicit in everything that we do. So say hello, Jake.
Hello, Jake. How are you? No, I have a wonderful opportunity to be the second banana in many, many different pieces of dessert. So it's a lot of fun to be working with Carmine and working with Julie and working with Sid and Amy Jo. Now I get to work with you. So this is great.
Awesome.
By the way, my working generally consists of just listening and shaking my head yes. So.
It's a good job to have.
You can't get in trouble that way, Jake. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Hey, real quick, Julie. I don't think people realize how much work it takes. So I know you guys just finished up that 24 hours, and I know you make these videos live. What kind of work does that take to get these videos? Do you split them up into sections for each?
Yeah, we do. I mean, much more work happens even before the day of the event. I mean, it's a lot of work to schedule people from all over the world. And Jake is the master scheduler. I mean, we've got people that come in for, I think we're up to officially now 53 or 54 countries. Jake, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's 54.
Yeah. So 54 countries have participated. We've had over 1,000 presenters, and I can't even remember what the number is on number of presentations, probably in the high 600s. But he's had to coordinate all of that to get everybody in a slot that works in their time zone, plot it on our schedule, and then I recruit hosts for it. So it takes us a good part of a month and a half's work to get it all together. And then after the event is over, it takes a solid week. And I have help now editing. So myself and a wonderful woman out of Saudi Arabia named Elavel, we split the work editing those videos. So this time there's going to be about close to 60 videos from the event because some people have half-hour or hour sections. So there's not as many when you have a lot of those sections, but it's a lot of work to brand them, get them up on the website, and then go back out and promote them again. So, but it's fun and it's worth it.
The scheduling is crazy. I'm late for lunch over here one day, scheduling these people from all over the world. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you've got to know a lot about time zones. So that's why Jake doesn't have me do that schedule. I just get to do the host schedule where everybody would be scheduled wrong for sure.
You're lucky.
So what's Sid's invention, just real quick?
You mean this time? He has a lot of inventions.
Well, I don't know, Sid, if you're looking to license your product, in the invention world, most of the innovators that come to us here, even in my company and with a lot of companies that we work with, most of the innovators want to try to license their product. That's why I thought it would be really, really good to bring Amy Jo on, because she is an expert in licensing products and taking them to market and helping people get ready to license their products. I always recommend before people manufacture the product themselves is to really think about it and look into licensing, because it really is, in most cases, and Amy Jo will try to hopefully back me up on it, is a good way to go, even to at least attempt to license your product or your idea.
It
Yeah.
might be a great time for Amy to just do a real quick, what's the difference between licensing and manufacturing? Some people that have been in the industry a long time, it's no problem to understand that. But for some of these students, they may struggle with the concept. So it might help to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I jump in, Sid, do you have any background on, do you know what licensing is?
No.
Okay. So there are two main ways that you can bring products to market. So a lot of people have a lot of ideas, but they don't really know what to do with them once they have the idea, like how to develop them, how to prototype, that type of thing. And then even when you have that, like how to protect it. And so those are previous steps. But when it comes to licensing versus venturing, so venturing is when you essentially take it upon yourself to pay a manufacturer to help you to design your product in order to get it in a product line or a manufacturing line, to be able to take it from concept to a tangible item, something that you can actually hold in your hand. And then you also have to try to sell it on top of it. I mean, you don't always have to, but usually that's what everyone's goal is to see it selling in the marketplace, right? So with licensing, which is what I specialize in, is what's really cool is with venturing, there's nothing wrong with that at all, but you have to have a nice setup and you have to have a nice team in order to be able to do that. People who know about manufacturing, people who know how to sell product, people who know how to package the product, how to market it, so consumers are aware that it even exists. So there are a lot of different steps and many more in addition to that. If you try to take it on yourself. So if you run your own business, you're wearing a lot of different hats with that and managing that. And it's extremely expensive, right, Carmine? Yes.
Yeah, very, very much. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So manufacturing, if you try to foot the bill yourself, if you're paying for it yourself, it's going to be pretty expensive. But with licensing, it allows you to continue. If you don't want to run a business around a product, just one product, because it sounds to me like you and a lot of people in this industry, you prefer to create, you have a lot of ideas and you want to focus your energy on coming up with more ideas and having more ideas be brought to market, that you can stamp your name on. And so what's cool about licensing is you essentially own the idea, but companies will rent it from you. So they'll pay for all the manufacturing. They'll pay for all the distribution, the sales. They have relationships with the retailers. They can market it online. They do all of that. And then they give you a percentage per unit sold. So you're not getting 100% of whatever profits may be if you were to do it yourself venturing. So you get a smaller percentage, but you get to pump out an idea, let them take all the busy work and the hard work and let them do it. And then you get to collect paychecks for the next 3 to 5 years, give or take, and continue working on your inventions.
That is really cool, and I'm sure I'm gonna write that down.
Okay.
We'll have the recording for you too, Sid. So we'll be able to do that to you also.
Yeah.
And I'll give you my email address too. If you want to shoot an email over to me, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have outside of this call today too. So
Thank you.
Boy, you're lucky. I've been trying to get her email address for months, Sid. So real quick, Amy Jo. So I want to license a product. Really, kind of, what is the minimum things I should have before I should even attempt to call a company or try to connect with them?
Yes. So you always want to make sure with any product that you're trying to pursue and take ownership over, you always want to make sure that you have your market research done, patent search done. You need to know if there are other products that are in the marketplace that that you could be infringing upon. So like if someone else has a patent of the exact same idea that you are wanting to pursue, you need to find that so you don't get in trouble for trying to sell their product without permission. So that's one of the biggest things that you want to make sure to do. You also want to make sure to locate or identify the right types of companies to reach out to. So especially if you're licensing, you're going to be focusing on the brands, not necessarily the manufacturers and not the retailers. Retailers do not license products. So you need to know what types of companies are the right types of companies to be able to potentially reach out to. And when you're studying that, recognize how many, because I'm a big numbers fan. So if I'm in an industry and I can only find 3 companies that I can possibly license to, I'm going to call them before I do all the rest of the steps to see if they are even open to talking to me. Otherwise, if you can get 40 companies, that's awesome. You're going to get a lot of no's, but you can possibly get a couple of yeses. You want to have marketing materials, so either a sell sheet or a video that communicates your product effectively and very quickly. And you're focusing on the benefits of the product, not the features of the product. And that's a big thing to be able to wrap your brain around, because sometimes features seem to be like, to us, they seem to be benefits, right? So like, let's say you had a product that had a silicone coating on it, and you did that because you wanted to have a grip to it for one way or another. So it didn't slide off. Let's say it was a coaster, and you put a silicone on the bottom of it, so that way it wouldn't slide across the table, right? So as opposed to saying, lined with silicone, you would say non-slip grip or non-slip, sliding, coaster. So you're identifying what that benefit, why that silicone has been added to that. How does that benefit the product? And then you're also going to want to try to have some type of ownership over it. So depending on what the product is, if you feel like it offers functionality, learning how to write your own provisional patent applications are awesome, because it gives you a patent pending status for 12 months, and you can reach out to companies during that period of time. I feel like I'm boring you. But you can reach out to companies with a patent pending status. So that way, that you're protected. Or if let's say it's a recipe, which is a little bit difficult to license, but you can go under the trade secret where you don't file anything at all. You just don't tell anybody it until you're ready to sign that deal. So, yeah. And then you start contacting companies and having conversations, you introduce it to them. And I mean, because you can't get a deal unless they know it exists, right? So you have to share it with them and don't hold on too tight to the product.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you know if you're not going to get cheated out of your product when you give permission to a company to start shopping out your product? You know what I mean?
Yep. So that's a really great question. And that's what a lot of inventors ask, of all ages, because they do get really close to their ideas, and their biggest fear is for somebody to steal it from them. And so the best thing is if you have the opportunity to file a provisional patent application, you can do that. That gives you that patent pending status. And because you filed first, that's what the patent office changed in 2013, that it's not the first to invent, but it's the first to file the actual application. And you can do so. If you file for a microentity status, you can do so for only $75. So it's not like it's tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do that. Otherwise, if you don't want to go that route, then you can have an NDA in place, an inventor's NDA in place, a non-disclosure agreement, and ask the company to sign that before you introduce your product to them. And so that'll help you. And then also one of the biggest things, which seems simple enough, is a lot of these companies have online submission forms through their websites. And I always like to have their email no matter what. Okay. Because that proves, so even if you submit to them through their website, you introduce your product to them through their website, I always call them back and ask them, what is your general email address? Because I want to make sure that you guys actually receive my submission properly, and at least have an email, so that way you have an email thread proving that you introduced your product to the company. that it was your idea and that you've been interacted with them and it's time stamped. Jake had asked just really quickly, what is the percentage based on revenue, gross profit, net? You know, Jake, that's a really great question because so Sid, just so you know, he's referring to your royalty. So your percentage of what you get paid, like what that percentage comes off of. If it's from it could be wholesale, it could be retail, gross, net, like there's a lot of different ways that we can word that. And so every contract is going to be unique. A lot of the times it's based off of net. What I like, my preference is actually to establish a flat rate, which a lot of my other colleagues in the industry don't necessarily agree with that. But it's easy if it's based off of net, it's very easy for them to play with numbers. You know, shipping costs, you know, got higher, cost of materials were higher. So now our profit margins are lower. And then now my paycheck's lower. So if I'm like, hey, I'm guaranteed 10 cents for every item sold, it doesn't matter what any of that happens. I know at least that's what my paycheck's going to be. So it's, again, that's when you have a contract in front of you, that's when you definitely need to get somebody who is experienced with licensing and they know how to negotiate, because a lot of people will also confuse licensing contracts with patents, and they'll also confuse negotiation experts with patent attorneys, or even contract attorneys. A lot of contract attorneys know how to write contracts, but they don't necessarily know how to negotiate contracts very well. You know, so you need to find somebody who knows what they're doing, what they're talking about, in order to help you with that language, so you can get minimum guarantees. You can prevent people from putting your product on the shelf, and kind of like nodding to what you said, Sid, where even if they don't like steal your idea in the sense of not having a deal with you, some companies have been known for writing a deal with you, writing a contract, and then just not putting your product out there. They just sit on it because your product competes with one of their products. So we help to prevent that from happening too, that if they close the deal, they have to sell it or you get it back. So lots of tricks. Okay, Jake, another question. How do you convince an inventor to let go of their baby? That's a good question, and let someone else raise their child. So, I mean, the only way that I can say that is, you know, what I tell all my students, and I've coached hundreds and hundreds of students, that if you're holding on too close to your product idea and you don't get it out there, you don't introduce it to people, it's kind of like keeping your child in a closet, right? Like your child's never going to be able to grow up. So you need to, I mean, there's no way for it to be able to reach its potential if you don't give it the proper tools to be able to do so. And so when people, you know, start to thinking about that, like, okay, I always say you could have the best idea on the planet, but if nobody knows that it exists, then it's not going to go anywhere, you know? So you have to get it out there. You have to showcase it and be a proud parent of that product. Carmine. Okay, you've seen percentage of profits ranging from, yes. Okay, so a percentage range, definitely. You've seen it between 1% to 7%. I mean, I've seen it between 1% to 10%. One of my students actually got a 10% deal, but it's very, very rare. And what David and I see, just for audience's purposes, David Fidua is, I work with him over at Invent Tribe. That's where we coach students. And we negotiate these types of deals. And so what we've seen on like shorter average is anywhere between 5% to 7%. It's like right in between there. So it's like with that 1% to 2% you're referring to, Carmine, that's usually, we see that a lot more with like as seen on TV products, you know, because they usually have smaller, but they have a larger market, right? So mass volume, you get paid smaller percentage, but you're still bringing in some money. So
yeah.
And just as a reminder, I mean, while it seems to some inventors that, 5 to 7% of the profit is a horrible amount of money, but they're not doing the work. Somebody else is doing all of that back end work. Somebody that probably, hopefully, has a lot of experience and has the infrastructure already set up to do that work. Is that correct?
Yeah. And they're exactly, Julie, and they're the ones that are financially investing in it as well. So it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the product just to manufacture it, for tooling and all of that, right? So, I mean, they're putting up their money, they're putting up their time, their employees, all of their different departments in order to try to make that product successful. And we talk about a lot that even though 5 to 7% doesn't seem like much at all, don't focus on what the percentage is, because if you gather the information as to kind of like what Jake was saying of like, okay, well, what is that percentage based on? Do we have, minimum goals of what we're going to sell in year 1, year 2, year 3? You gather that information so you're going to have an idea. If you have a novelty product that is just like, oh, it's a new type of like soccer game or something, you might be able to make 10 grand a year, and it's small, it's niche. But then, if you have something that's really like a game changer, I mean, it can be a life changer for you. It just kind of depends. So on the actual type of product. And for kids like Sid with a lot of ideas, then, I mean, it's just a matter of just stocking up that portfolio and closing those deals.
That's awesome. Amy, I was up with Sid hanging out up in Massachusetts with him the other day, and he was asking me, what do you look for in a company? Say you have multiple companies that want to license your product. Is there some red flags or different things that you should do or ask to make sure they're a good fit?
Yes. So, I mean, you want to have that's a great question. So first of all, if you have more than one company wanting to license your product, we call that a really good problem to have. And if the companies are asking you who else you're talking with, I don't choose to disclose that information. I like to keep that, my cards close to me when it comes to that. So I'll just say, yes, as you know, I'm interested in I'm pursuing this as a licensing opportunity. And I'm in conversation with other companies. But then what you want to do is you want to kind of gauge what the company is, what they're able to do for your product. So if they're a super small boutique company and they sell out of it's like a one shop, or if it were me with my own Amazon store, I wouldn't be the best bet, because you could get somebody better than me if I just had one product on Amazon, right? And so you just ask the right types of questions of like, okay, well, where do you see this product going? Where do you imagine it selling? Where do you currently sell at now? And so that way you can try to gauge, what the size of the company is and what their goals are for your product. And then that helps you to decide. Another thing is, a lot of the times you can actually have more than one licensing deal on the same product. Yes, you can. So if your product taps into different categories, so like, I always try to use this as an example, the ice cream scooper. So like, if you were to take the ice cream scooper and decide to use it as a gardening tool, and for some reason, while you were tilling up that soil with the ice cream scooper, and your flowers and plants grew 3 times faster because of what that ice cream scooper did, you could license that as an ice cream scooper, and you could also license it as a gardening tool without changing it at all.
Wow. You just want to wash it before you use it to get ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to make sure that it's clean before you dip it in the ice cream.
Wow. That's awesome. Great idea. So Sid, you have a question?
No, I was just going to say that it would be really bad if you forgot to.
No. My favorite ice cream is Rocky Road. So I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to walk it.
It's just a hybrid tool then.
That's so funny. It's funny you say that, Amy, is with these companies, I know that, when I first time tried licensing one of my products, I was so excited that a company actually got back to me. that I would have probably taken any deal that they offered. I mean, they could have probably asked me to pay them to take it, but it's very tough for an inventor, as Julie was saying, as all of us are saying, for an inventor to part with their idea, with their product. That should you, if you're not good with this, really have somebody who's not as emotionally attached to that product, maybe do that negotiation for you, somebody like yourself or somebody that does that. If we're talking a lot of money, you could really make a mistake, right?
Yes. I think that that's helpful. So when we help our students with negotiations, at the end of the day, it's going to be the student's decision on what they want to do. But we're going to do our best to try to get the best deal for them, but also for the company, that where everybody's happy in order to work together. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times I've seen it happen so many times where we've had students try to do it themselves, and they feel their product is more valuable than the company feels it is, and they ask for too much too early on. And I mean, that's why we have to be very careful. We walk on eggshells when we're talking to companies, because to prove to them, hey, I want to be reasonable. I want to try to, I want to be a helping hand here. Let's work together. Let's make this product as successful as possible together as a team, as opposed to being like, you need to pay me $10 million for my idea. Because they're not going to do that most likely.
No, I totally agree. And as I said, I made that mistake, years and years ago, I think, right, Jake? I think it was in the 60s before Woodstock. I did that, but no, it is so good to hear you saying that, because it is something that, sometimes it's hard to do, but you should leave it into the hands of somebody. You hire a lawyer when it really counts. So when something like this comes along and you have a big company and these negotiations really count, it's hard for us to admit it, but we should really bring somebody on like Amy Jo that has seen this, they've done this, they're not emotionally attached, because 1% difference in a deal could be millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about the way that you ask things. So it's not about what you ask for, it's how you ask for it. And even though we help with the negotiation side of things, the psychology behind that, we do recommend, okay, we are not attorneys. And so if you want to get an attorney to review your contract before you sign it, then we highly recommend that. But having someone that's not an attorney help you to negotiate, who does it on a daily basis, is going to be probably most cost effective and also more skilled at the trade.
Yeah. Jake asked the same question I was going to ask about inventions. Is there different types of inventions or different markets that are easier?
Yes. So there are certain industries that are a little bit more challenging to license within, and usually those are the industries that are harder to take ownership over your intellectual property. Sid, do you have a question?
Yeah. I have two questions. One, do you have to be on a team when you're licensing something with people that know the skill? And then two, why do companies decline your offer for your idea? I just don't get that. Is there a reason?
So your first question, you do not have to be on a team of people. But I guess to kind of elaborate on that, it's always important to understand and recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are, and where your weaknesses are, figure out if it's worth your time to strengthen them, or if you want to help kind of build your own team of resources to help you with that. So if you're not a good negotiator right now, then maybe you find somebody to negotiate. Or if you're not a good graphic designer right now, then you can learn it, but then you can outsource that for somebody to help you with a sell sheet, different things like that. So understanding knowing who to find and being open to allowing people to help you through the process to get you there is extremely important, as opposed to trying to think that you need to figure everything out yourself. Because even if you do, it's going to take you longer to try to learn it yourself. And you're going to make more mistakes than if you were to talk to an industry expert in one way or another. What was your second question?
I understand why people like companies like decline your offer for renting the idea. I just don't get that. Is there a reason?
There are a lot of reasons. Sometimes the companies just they're not accepting out. They don't accept outside ideas. They do everything in-house. So they rely on their own employees and they don't work with outside inventors. Could be one. Another one is maybe they don't have a budget for it, so they can't afford it at the time. So it could be timing and finances. The other thing is they could feel, a lot of the times they always say it's not a right fit. So if a company if they have like their own brand in motion and they just don't like to sidestep like what they've been doing and they're comfortable with where they're at, they'll say it's not a right fit. So maybe your product is too innovative for them. Maybe it doesn't fall in line with how they see their brand and what they're like, what products represent their brand. So it could be a mixture of a few thing. And that's a great question to ask, because if a company says no, then I always follow up to ask why. I always say, thank you for your time and consideration. I'm always looking to improve my products. Would you mind, sharing any insight with how you came to your conclusion? And sometimes they'll respond and sometimes they won't. But if they do, they'll say, well, we feel like it's overly engineered, or, it's just going to be too expensive. Or sometimes they'll say, well, I don't see it being made out of plastic. I see it being made out of silicone, but they don't take it upon themselves to ask you if you're okay with that. They just tell you no. And then you can say, hey, guess what? We can make it out of silicone, And so sometimes you can actually salvage, you can get them back, interested when you figure out what their pain points are.
Okay.
I didn't finish answering that other question though. I'm sorry. I was in the, so the industries, so fashion and apparel are difficult to license within unless you offer functionality, because you can't really protect them. And that whole industry they're all known for copying each other. They're copycats, right? So they steal everything from them when it comes to colors, when it comes to fabrics, when it comes to patterns. So that's a challenging one. Recipes are challenging too, because you have to have that trade secret, which is you just don't file anything. You just don't tell anybody. And maybe you send them a brownie and let them taste it if they're willing to do so. And if they like it, then, so that one can be a little bit more challenging too. So bottom line, pretty much I learned actually through one of my other students, she was pursuing a jewelry product. That jewelry, kind of similar to fashion, right? It could be considered fashion to a certain extent, that those companies are also copycats as well. And so they're a little bit more difficult to try to submit your product to. But otherwise, anytime that you can find an industry that has a lot of companies, then you should be good to go for the most part to be able to reach out to. What's my favorite invention success story? Okay. I have a lot of them, Jake, but one that always pops in my mind is that, so I had a student, she lives over in Europe, and she's an engineer, super smart gal. Her name's Laura. And so she had come up with a new medical product, but it's a super niche medical type of product. And there were only 2 companies in the world who make this type of product. And so she came to me and said, hey, I want to improve this accessory that already exists. But there are only 2 companies. And I was like, well, your odds. So what I would recommend doing is calling them first, seeing if they're even willing to talk to you. And they both said that they would. They were very friendly. So she went through all the development steps and sent them over after she had protection. And they both loved the idea. They both offered her a contract. And this is the 10% deal that I was referring to earlier. So not only did they give her 10% royalty worldwide on the product, but they also gave her a quarterly salary for 3 years.
Wow.
which is one of the sweetest deals I've seen. So that was one of my favorite stories.
That's amazing. That really is. You're right.
Yeah.
Especially in the medical industry too.
Yeah. Medical and only having 2 opportunities and batting at 100% with that, it's pretty darn good.
And they had you helping them.
Yes, they did.
There you go. Hey, we had a question come in from our YouTube channel. So if you are looking, not just that you are a coach, but if you're looking for a coach, what should you look for in a coach?
I would say someone who has experience, they've been in the industry for a while, has a track record, and that they're willing to share some numbers with, how many people they've worked with, how many projects they've helped to close. It's not always easy, to find people who are willing to do that. There are certain companies who are legally required to share their numbers, and so you can look that up online without even talking to anybody. And then also try to compare prices and different coaching opportunities, because with one-on-one coaching, for the most part, the pricing is pretty lateral for the companies that I'm aware of. But then we offer the group coaching, which is a lot more affordable. And then we also offer the partnership stuff where we do everything for you, which is a lot more expensive, than one-on-one coaching. So finding what that sweet spot is, where you think okay, what are your goals are, having appropriate expectations, having a personality that you're willing, or that you think that you'll click with, that motivates you and keeps you accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good that you probably work closely with your students, so you obviously have to connect with them. There's a lot of different personalities and things in that sense. So, to be successful, a lot of things probably have to click, right? It's got to all work together.
Yeah, because if you have somebody that you don't like calling you up saying, hey, I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks, you're gonna be you're not gonna hear from me for a while, So you want to enjoy your experience with your coach.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree. You want, not only your students and your coach to be able to work together. I have some clients that, they just don't follow the rules. If you want to talk about it, then sometimes it's just hard to work with them. Sometimes you work with clients that are awesome, and it just seems like it's a breeze to work with them, so. I totally understand what you're talking about. How long have you been doing this for, Joe?
Oh, goodness gracious. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I've been a coach for 8-ish, probably I'm probably going on 8.5 now. And David actually, he trained me initially in the industry, and I've licensed 2 products so far of my own. I've helped a lot of students learn the process. Like I said, I've worked with hundreds of students, and we've, between David and myself, we've closed, I want to say at least around probably 200 contracts. Wow. And for our students, yeah. We're still kind of like a boutique shop on with what we do, but we like that because we like to have be hands-on with our students. And so, yeah, it's fun. We really enjoy it. And that's why I'm happy to be here, because I've been wanting to get in, I want to be able to help the youth community. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So I really appreciate you guys, inviting me to be on. And so Sid, do you have any, you said I thought you were raising your hand there for a second. Did you have another question?
Yes. How much money have you made out of all of the work that you've done?
Well, that's a tricky question. Well, like I said, I've been in it for a long time. Like I said, every deal is a little bit different, and between coaching, royalties, everything that we do with our students, I don't necessarily have a direct answer for you on that up to date. But I can tell you, like I said, I've seen some of my students' deals, if you're referring to contracts, smaller deals like around like 10,000 annually, to, I mean, one person that I worked with just received like a $70,000 check for the year, which is cool. You know, so I mean, there's a lot of potential with what you can make, but we don't like to promote the get rich quick thing. Like, that's not what we try to promote. I mean, you can definitely make money off of this, but we really encourage you to invent and create because you enjoy it. And then the income is icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
have one more question. Is it better to start your licensing on a company with few products or many products? So something.
I think both. So I don't like to judge a company when I'm putting them on my list to try to pitch to them. If they're kind of a newer company and they have a small product line of inventory, I'll still reach out to them. Sometimes the smaller companies are easier to work with because if they're going to invest in a new product, they're going to make that product their number one priority because they have to make it successful for their investment. And then if they're super large companies and they take it on, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle because they have a lot of other products that they're developing too, you know? And so it's not a bad thing to go small. It's not a bad thing to go large. It's just, it's a good thing to understand that their processes internally are different and their goals are going to be different.
Okay.
Wow. Hey,
Great
Sid,
question.
Yeah, that was good. Sid, what kind of inventions do you have?
What do you mean?
Do you have an invention that you could tell us about or show us?
Okay, yes, I do. I have a Lego model of one of my inventions that I've kept safely here.
While he's gone, Amy Jo, Jake sent you a question that I'm real interested in too. Is it, are you interested in talking to or fielding questions like this from people around the world? Or is this something that's your expertise is US based mostly? Not exactly what Jake asked, by the way, but it's something I know where he's going with this question.
Yeah, for sure. So we have students from all around the world. We've been actually having quite a few students come to us from Australia recently, which I don't know what's in the water over there right now, but I love working, you know, with everyone all around the world. And so, yeah, absolutely, we can open that up. I'm primarily knowledgeable with like when it comes to intellectual property and stuff based in the US though. So when it comes to patent questions and that type of stuff for like protecting in different countries, I'm not going to always be able to answer that, but I can find someone who can.
All right. Well, we'll let Sid share with you, but then we'll follow up with that follow-up in a minute.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so I know this. Julie and Jake know about this idea. It was my nanobot idea that I presented around an year ago. The function is when it goes in the body, it searches for a specific type of white blood cell. It attaches onto the receptors. Wait, with the background, it's hard to see the receptors with this arm. There are going to be more arms when it really comes out, but I couldn't find enough Legos, unfortunately, to make more arms. There's going to be a motor on the back of it. And once it attaches onto the white blood cell, it will take it, and when the bot senses an intruder, it'll just start spinning around and drilling through it. Since the white blood cells are fast and are good at sensing the invaders of the body, that's why I put that they attach to white blood cells. Well, that's technically the idea I wanted to show you.
Wow.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, Amy Jo's a microbiologist, so she knows what that's exactly what you're talking about.
That is so cool. How long have you been working on that?
Let me think. I think a year or something.
Wow.
And by the way, thank you, Jake, for the offer. I'll accept.
Yeah, yeah. We have Legoland down here in Tampa, so just come on down. I'll get you as many as you need.
Yeah, this isn't his.
Come on, this is my deal. He said that if I sent him Legos, he would become my partner. Amy Jo, once I have a formal partnership with Sid, would you take on this product, please?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, this is not his only idea that's kind of in the medical realm. I think that's where his heart is, but he may have other ideas, but everything I've heard from him has been to help somebody's health. I'm pretty sure he had an alternative to COVID vaccines. Do you want to share that one?
I don't have a model, but basically it's a type of gummy. It might be out today, but I thought of this idea like a year ago that technically contains the COVID vaccine in it. It contains the I don't know what it's, the outer layer, what all gummies have, sugar-ish, and it'll
the
wipe
gelatin.
out the gelatin, and it'll have a sugary taste that will wipe out the taste of, I don't know, I have a feeling it's the vaccines is not going to really taste good. So all I'm saying is there's going to be a lot of sugar on it.
I have an idea for that. Remember, we talked about the taste of a vaccine might be so awful that the gummy might not be what if instead of worrying about the taste, it sort of kind of numbs your taste bud so you can't taste it going down? That might be the answer.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Good idea.
You heard it here first.
Let's hope when it's getting manufactured, the machines do not put too much of that tongue numbing thing into it, or else you'll never get to taste food again.
That could be one of those things Amy Jo was talking about, where it could be cross-sold to something else. All the kids who hate spinach, eat a gummy first, and
there you go.
True.
Hey, real quick with that, Amy Jo, is licensing medical products a little trickier?
Surprisingly, I haven't seen that. I mean, I've been told that, but I personally don't have any medical products in my lineup, but I've worked with a lot of students who do. And I've not really seen that being more difficult. It can be a little bit longer of a process though, like if it needs to be FDA approved or depending on what, like how complicated the product is. But I mean, it's really surprising to me how outdated a lot of the medical systems are. And so when these companies receive these types of calls, they're not bombarded with open innovation calls on a regular basis like a kitchenware company would be. So when they get those calls, they're interested, they're intrigued, and they're willing to talk to us. So that's nice about that.
Yeah.
That brings up a question when we're talking about like FDA approval. Does it cost you money to submit to the FDA to try to gain approval on your product?
From my knowledge, it does, but usually
is that like a nominal form fee or it's a big amount of money?
I don't know what the dollar amount is, but I know that there is a fee for them to review it. And so normally what I recommend for my students is I recommend there's not a fee for you to just talk to them, but there's a fee for them to go through the whole evaluation process should you submit the product. And so you can call and just say, hey, I'm pursuing this type of product. Would you be willing to look at it and kind of give me an idea of if you think this would be considered, like it could possibly be approved? If so, how long do you think it would take and how much is it going to cost in order to submit that into review? But I'm still because the last time that I had to work on that with an FDA type of product was like 2 years ago. So I don't know what their rules are right now, but if there are any, the main problem with that is the time turnaround for them to go through the approval process. But a lot of the time we have our licensees take care of it, and they're already in the industry, that they've already gone through the process. So they know how to handle the process, and they cover the expenses.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Real quick, Julie, I'll jump in there too. You're exactly right, Amy Jo. Just real quick. So we've done several medical products, and it is easier, or I want to say, I hate using the word cheaper, but to license your medical product to a company that has not only a lot of money, but that's what they do, because the manufacturing, the FDA approval process takes long, but you also have to, in some cases, send your product out for testing to a third party, which can really add up in big cases, because the FDA isn't going to want your testing, meaning that, hey, I got my product, I'm testing it in my back room, because obviously it's going to pass, or you wouldn't be sending it to them. So you have to send it to a third party to do that testing. And in some cases, multiple times, especially if you make any changes. So that's where, as Amy Jo said, the time and the cost can really add up. That's why if you don't have a facility that's leveled and rated to make medical products, licensing, send it over to Amy Jo and she'll help you with it, because licensing is the best way to go.
Yeah, because thank you for clarifying that, Carmine, because the licensee is most likely going to be the person who handles all of that, not the independent inventor.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's great. Medical products are awesome. I mean, but you may not want to manufacture them yourself.
Yeah.
like baby products. And we get a lot of baby products, and I think they're awesome. But I mean, you may not want to manufacture a baby product your own, because there's a lot of responsibilities in it. So this, that's why Amy Jo and her company are such an integral part of the invention innovation process, because it fills that gap, that bridge between actually ideas, innovation, and taking it to market. It's licensing is a great idea for a lot of people. Yeah.
Especially for like the baby products, like what you're talking about. Like if you try to come up with any type of accessory for a car seat, any car seat manufacturers have warranties on them that if you interfere with what their structure is in any way, and the baby is harmed in an accident, that their warranty is completely voided out. And so you have to, there are just different little things like that you need to be aware of, and you need somebody to kind of give you a heads up on before you get into it.
Yeah, it's really true. Excellent. I really appreciate you coming on, Amy Jo. This has really been interesting. Even for me, I'm learning a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you. You guys have been awesome with all of your great questions. Sid, you're only 9 years old?
Yes.
That's crazy. You're like a genius.
Can you imagine what he'd be doing when he's like 12 or 15 or
when he's 10?
I know.
About 12 or 15.
Yeah, he's gonna be incredible. And we'll get to say we knew him when he was just a kid.
Yeah.
Very true.
Sid, do you mind if I ask, like, where are you located? Or
I'm located in Carlisle, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay. Cool. So Carmine, you said you just hung out with him the other
I'm
day?
only kidding. Yeah, I was only kidding. He's right across the street from MIT, I'm sure.
Actually, I'm not. I am in an overgrown forest. Well, yeah, if you want to describe it that way. Yes, I'm in a forest.
Don't you think that Amy Jo would make a fantastic presenter on the Global Innovation Field Trip?
Yes.
I think
And
so
that
too.
sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And an amazing co-host.
Would you? Oh yeah, she would make a great co-host too. Yes, she would. I was going to ask if you would be a host during the time that she was on, because you already know her. She'd feel more comfortable. She would get nervous if she was presenting, because she would know you.
Yeah.
And she'd be able to help you with your nanobots.
There you go.
Yeah.
She has to bring her own Legos though.
Oh, I have a ton of them too. My daughter's 8, so we're Lego house over here too.
So Amy Jo, for the Global Innovation Field Trip, I kind of briefly explained what it was earlier. It's really a big celebration of innovators around the world. But in addition to that, we bring on program leaders and other industry experts that help students through the innovation process. And
Oh,
so
very cool.
they're often doing a presentation to share what they do to help other people in that innovation space. And we would absolutely love you to do that. So mark your calendar if you're around for October 15th, 16. We'll start October 15th at noon Eastern time, and we'll end Sunday, 24 hours later at noon Eastern time as well. And it's super simple to sign up, and we'll send you something later. And Jake, I know she doesn't really get nervous. She sent me a little note. I don't think she gets nervous. I know she doesn't get nervous.
But
Thank
Julie,
you guys.
are you going to have the registration set up? I know you said the videos are going up, but will the
Yeah,
registration?
the registration will be set up by Saturday for the new event.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well,
Amy.
thank
This
you.
was
That sounds like
fantastic.
a fun opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you
it
for
is a lot of fun. Amy Jo, you're going to get people from all over the world listening in, and a lot of great questions, a lot of help, and a lot of cool products too, right, Jake and Julie? I mean, some cool
Yeah.
products, right, Sid? It's really,
It's
really
amazing what these
interesting.
students are doing, and it makes you leave feeling very uplifted that, okay, all the bad news I hear all day long, this is a very bright spot.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to look at the capable hands we will be in, 10, 15 years from now, the people that are going to have to be taking care of all the rest of us. So I'm real excited to invite you to that, and that you can enjoy it as well. And we'll get you information out about it by Saturday for sure. And Sid,
Okay.
thank you for holding down and representing the entire United States as the top innovator who came to the program today. We love it.
Thank you. By the way, why don't you add in the registration that people who want can actually host the event, because you should have a vacation.
Well, thank you.
You're
I'm actually on
doing a
vacation
great
next
job.
week. All week I'm on vacation.
You're doing a
It's
great
very thoughtful of you, Sid.
Thank you,
Aw.
Sid. I appreciate it.
I love it. This is
Carmine,
awesome.
thank you. And thank United Inventors Association also for helping us always.
Oh, no problem. We love this stuff, and we'll try to be a part, as usual, of the gift program. We'll try to fill some spots and do some great stuff. Also, when's the next show? Is next Thursday, right, Julie? We have next
Yep,
Thursday.
Next Thursday, 4:00. Jake is
Yep.
going to be here for sure. And I will be if the vacation house we're in has good Wi-Fi.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Well, we will hold down the fort, and Julie, you deserve vacation, just like you said. So if you can't make it, we totally understand. We won't talk about you too much,
Oh,
but
you will.
we'll
That's
definitely.
okay. That's okay.
Since you won't be here to defend yourself.
Carmine, actually, I'm going to be at a school with a bunch of kids who are doing a summer program on creativity. Would it be okay if I invited some of them to come in and hang out behind me?
Yeah, bring them on. That would be awesome. I'm sure they'll have some questions. We'll see if Amy Jo wants to come back on and help out also. But we'll have another guest. I haven't locked down the guest yet. We kind of use it as a surprise, but we have some great guests that I've been talking to. It's just, it's weird, like you said, with the summertime, we're locking down people that are either on vacation or they're traveling. So we have some great guests. I'm just trying to lock in the actual dates.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Well, very
everybody.
good. Very, very good. I love it. We're through UIA TV. We appreciate you guys for being on today, putting this together. Sid, thank you so much for coming on, telling us about your ideas. Amy Jo, as usual, is awesome. When I sit at one of these and I learn some stuff, I know you're a pro, you're a professional, and we're so glad you found some time to come on. For all you people out there listening, we thank you, and we will catch you next time on UIA TV.